not every day that we have a bank failure.
Those are customers lining up outside of Silicon Valley Bank at its Menlo Park branch. A bank run led to $42 billion in withdrawal requests yesterday in a single session, leaving the bank with a balance of only $958 million at the close. This is Silicon Valley Bank's price chart for the last month. It lost 63% of its value just today. But last month, Jim Cramer said SVB was a buy at $320. Let's take a listen.
The ninth best performer year to date is SVB Financial. Don't yawn. This company's a merchant bank with a deposit base that Wall Street had been mistakenly concerned about. SVB is the old Silicon Valley Bank. Recently bought one of our favorite research firms, Nathanson, and it's become less dependent upon private equity and venture capitalist offerings. Wait a second. Those dried up last year, they could come back. Yeah, some of them come back here with the stock directly affects an oversold position. Stock was the fourth worst performer in 2022. I think the fears were not justified, and it's a very compelling situation. Hey, by the way, long-term private equity and venture capital, they're not going away. Being the banker to these immense pools of capital has always been a very good business. Stock's still cheap. Now, you have to remember that a stock that falls 66% like SVB Financial did last year, it takes it a lot more to recover. After losing 2/3 of your value, you need a 200% gain to get back to even. This is arithmetic. Some people call it geometry. So you could argue SVB's nearly 40% rally this year is barely a drop in the bucket. And that's how I want you to think it. I think it's also a good example of why these bounce back moves might be far from over. These stocks could have more room to run, especially if you think they were driven down to artificially low levels by tax loss selling, artificial dumping.
Maybe this is what happens when those in power put far-left pandering over financial responsibility. Just over a year ago, SVB issued this interesting proclamation. Silicon Valley Bank commits to $5 billion in sustainable finance and carbon-neutral operations to support a healthier planet. So this may be the result of get woke, go broke. To add insult to injury, in the last 2 weeks, the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank, Gregory Becker, sold 11% of his shares or $3.57 million in stock. That's 12,451 shares for $287.42 a share. Daniel Beck, the CFO, sold 32% of his holdings, while CMO Michelle Draper sold 28% of hers. They probably didn't have any insider knowledge, though. They're just really super lucky, I guess. The question is this just the spark that's going to ignite a larger financial crash powder keg? There's going to be a lot of pressure on political parasites next week in Washington's District of Criminals to cave to a taxpayer bailout of SVB. Roku reportedly had 26% of total cash and cash equivalents held in Silicon Valley Bank. And according to the New York Slimes, BlockFi Crypto Bank has $227 million in SVB. The U.S. government on Friday assumed control of Silicon Valley Bank and its billions of dollars in customer deposits, temporarily shutting all branches and freezing withdrawals. This week is key to determining if the situation escalates from an inconvenience to a crisis for SVB clients, most of which are businesses that need to meet payroll. What people need to know is that FDIC insurance covers up to $250,000 of deposits, all of which will be made available by Monday morning, according to them. But most SVB customers are companies with much higher balances, and it's not yet clear how much money they'll be able to draw or when. In its statement, the FDIC said only that those in excess of $250,000 will receive, quote, an advanced dividend within the next week, end quote. One big reason this weekend matters so much is that the next pay period for many companies is next Wednesday, March 15th. The best case scenario is that another financial institution steps up and agrees to buy SVB, thus automatically strengthening its balance sheet. A purchase like that presumably would facilitate the reopening of client accounts and also calm nervous investors who've been dumping shares of SVB rivals like First Republic and PacWest. It also could reopen venture lending, which is a key financing tool to many startups. The worst case scenario is that the market opens Monday and SVB remains a ward of the state with no white knight on the horizon. All eyes would then turn to the FDIC to see exactly what those advanced dividends look like, and if they'll be sufficient to cover expenses. But if payrolls are missed, the pain could spread from boardrooms to kitchen tables. Some companies may begin to seek out alternate financing like loans from other banks to tide them over. Nobody currently knows if companies ultimately would be able to access all of their money. That includes the FDIC, which had not compiled that information at the time of its takeover. The bottom line is Silicon Valley Bank has melted down. The question now is if the fallout will be contained. One thing's for sure, if you're an SVB client, you're panicking and looking for a bailout. And you can bet there's a flock of political parasites ready to get on board and give you what you want. Either way, the whole situation is going to be bad for a lot of people. Leave your thoughts about this for the world in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. I'll see you in the next video.